realize it because it's not enough of a difference to get our attention. But in some of these cases, that's what happens, and then suddenly they find themselves back in their own reality. One man wrote me that he went out to the airport watching the jets take off, the little jets. As he watched them, they were going forward, and suddenly they went backwards. Then they went forwards again. Then they went backwards again. And he didn't know what was going on. When he walked out to the street, the cars were doing the same thing. They were going forwards and backwards. And then when he walked down the streets, he saw the people in the stores were all dressed like they were 50 years ago. So I'm thinking maybe it's kind of like on the edge of one of these time dimensions, and it was not quite set, I suppose. But can you see why they can't tell something like this to their friends or neighbors? They think they were crazy. And I've had some things like that where you'll be on the verge of these shifting and strange things are happening and you're not in one or not in the other. So it could really make you think you were going crazy. Now, we are surrounded by dimensions. We can't see them because they're vibrating at different frequencies. There are cities there are peoples there. I think this is where the different time zones are, the past, the future. They're all vibrating at different frequencies. And the aliens know how to go back and forth in these frequencies. This is the way they travel. They don't travel so much with fuel, as some of the other investigators used to give me a hard time. They wanted to know what kind of fuel do we have to go from here to the next star out there, and how many of the speed of light. They said it's not done that way. The UFOs are held by thought. It can be the group thought of everybody on the craft or the individual thought. They have crystals on board the craft, and the energy is stored in these crystals. And this is what propels them. And when they want to travel from one place to another, they change the vibration of their frequency. They speed it up. And when they speed it up, they will go into the other dimension. Some people have seen UFOs in the sky at night. They'll suddenly flash and disappear. And other ones will see one suddenly flash in. That's because they are changing the frequency, the vibration of the ship, and are hitting that wall where the two dimensions clash, and they suddenly are over in the other dimension. Just like Star Trek, when you see whenever they go into Mach 1, they suddenly just disappear. And I'm beginning to think that all of these time dimensions in the past are existing in the same way as a frequency, as a dimension. And when we were talking to Nostradamus, we were able to tune in on that frequency and communicate like having a telephone. And it is some way, it's like tuning a radio or a television. Somehow we were able to communicate across time. They are doing the same thing. And this is why they are aware of everything that's happening. Some of the people who have come through, the ones that I'm working with, have told me they are from the future. Some of them are from very far in the future, and they are time travelers. And they said they come back to our time to try to change things that will affect their future. And that's why they're trying to change what we're doing right now, because it will affect their future. And they have to be very careful, because if they change too much, then their future will cease to exist as they know it. This sounds like the sci-fi movies, but they say it is really happening. And many of these travelers have told me things that they said I'm not allowed to lecture on, I'm not allowed to write about, because they said it's too dangerous. But there are definite, they say, portals are windows in time that they're able to find and go through. And that's what our government is trying to find now, so they can do time travel in the same way. I wanted to know what the difference was between the windows and the portals. They said a portal you can go through, like they do, and go into another dimension in the future, in the past. A window you can look through, but you can't go through. And it would be on the same dimension you are, where the portals would be able to access the different dimensions. See, some of this can get complicated, But I want to tell you one thing that did happen that was really startling. When I was on the Art Bell show last year, it was Mike Siegel was the one who was doing the interview. And you know, when you're on there, you're on all night long. It's 4 hours. I got the strangest email from these ladies in Memphis. They said rather than stay up all night to listen to the show, they're used to recording it. They have tape recorders that will record all night long on these very slow tapes. The next morning they got up, they said the one woman said she turned on the tape. Instead of the Mike Siegel show, it was a sporting event. And it was the same call letters as the right station. She knew she had the right station. But they called the station. Her other friend said the same thing. She had recorded it during the night, and they got the sporting event. They called the station. The station said, we're not carrying Art Bell anymore, and we don't care how many protests we get. We haven't carried it for several weeks. So they said they did not broadcast it that night. Well, the third woman who recorded the show that night got my talk on the radio. And they said on the end radio during the breaks, the same call letters. It was the same radio station. The other ones got the show that they said was being broadcast was a sporting event. She got the broadcast. And how can something like that happen? They asked me what happened. I said, I have no idea. But it was a few weeks later, I lectured in Memphis at a Unity church, and they drove all the way from Nashville to be there. And they said, there's three just nice old ladies. And they weren't making this up. And they said, we want you to know we are not making this up. We have the tape recordings to prove it. Now, what was going on there? Was it a kind of a overlapping of dimensions or something where this did exist in one and didn't exist in the other? Because this is what we have also been told that can blow your mind. I said that's why I put this in the one book, because it is for those who want their minds bent like pretzels. Because over all the